you definitely have been lucky enough to go to more countries than most people ever will, maybe than most families ever will get to visit. Tell me about an interesting person who most people haven't heard about yet. Tell me about an interesting country that most people haven't heard about yet, and tell me about an interesting trend.
It's not a country that people haven't heard of, but I think people underestimate Vietnam. This is an extraordinary place. Now, it has a form of government that's not very helpful to it, and it has human rights problems and corruption problems. But what a population. Energetic, young, pro-American. Vietnam, if it can get its politics out of the way, is going to take off. And of all the countries that I visited when I was secretary, that's the one I've most wanted to go back to. And one of these days I'll get a chance to do that. A person that perhaps they've not yet heard about, or maybe they've heard about, but should take more note of. I think taking more note of what Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is doing in Liberia.
The president.
The president. But not just her, the people around her. You know, she has assembled a group of people who are determined to make that country work. And always the folks for whom I have the greatest respect are people who go into a really tough situation and try to make it work. And so there are going to be a lot of great people emerging out of Liberia, and I would look for it. A trend, China. What's going on in China? I just spent the most remarkable couple of days in China. I went to Tsinghua University.
The MIT of China.
The MIT of China. I lectured at Tsinghua. I decided not to lecture about U.S.-China relations, but about education and about the promise and the value of education. I got questions from those students that I would have gotten at Stanford, and they surprised me. What do I do if I choose a major that my parents don't like? What do I do if I've chosen a major that I'm not very good at? I'm an engineering major. Why should I have to take literature and the arts? Now, what does that say to me? That says to me that there's a generation of young Chinese who are beginning to think, and they're not following rotely what they're told to follow. And that's going to change China. I'm not saying that tomorrow China is going to become a democracy, but when people start to think at that level, when they start to ask deep questions about their own circumstances and are not just willing to accept those circumstances, something's changing. And for the first time during this trip to China, I felt something's changing.